So Invincible Season 3 is done and that was a great season. I've been looking forward to this arc ever since I read the comics. Speaking of comics, we obviously have the main Invincible comics from which the show is adapted from. However, we also have various spin-offs about a bunch of Invincible characters which forms a giant comic extended universe. So I'm going to go over my thoughts on every Invincible spin-off comic, and don't worry, I won't give major spoilers so you can read them if you're interested. Anyways, let's get into it. So this is a comic that was adapted for the Adam Eve special. There's not much to say with this story since it's more or less one-on-one with what they did in the show. I will say that the art style of this comic is a lot grittier, and whilst I'm not the biggest fan of it, it definitely fits the dark tone of this comic and it lends itself to some really disturbing visuals. Some other things to mention, Eve is a lot brattier here than in the show version. There's a line comparing young her to a Powerpuff Girl, and I think that's really funny. And I know we got it in the show, but it's also good to see kill canon origins of him still fighting Eve years later. Well, we go from Eve's backstory to Rex and how these two met up. Rex isn't the biggest focus in the comics, but his backstory helps make him more sympathetic the same way the show has been including him in more scenes. These issues detail how Rex got his powers and what he was using them for before Eve was around. Their dynamic is written well and you can understand how the relationship came to be as well as why Rex is selfish. Both of these things are mentioned at times during the show but not fully detailed. Random thing to throw in at the end, I do like the first suit Rex had even though it is very extra. Tech Jacket was released a year before Invincible, so it's actually one of the founders of the universe. Tech Jacket focuses on Zach Thompson, a teenager who becomes a space superhero after merging with an alien race's technology, the Tech Jacket. He's essentially Blue Beetle for the Invincible universe, and I have some things to say about his series. So we have the first 6 issues of Tech Jacket from 2002 to 2003. This is his origin story, and Zach's a pretty cool guy, someone you want to root for. His family's cool, I like all the alien characters we have, and I just love the aesthetic of the Tech Jackets. The artwork is great. Overall, the tone is lighter in this run than what we tend to get in Invincible, but it is only the starting point, and I really like it. There are 2 more issues to conclude this Tech Jacket origin story, but those will run as backup forms in some of the Invincible issues. So this was a 3-issue digital exclusive miniseries that ran in 2014. This series started to tie in Tech Jacket with the main events of the Invincible story, which I love. Although it does create a fracture of one of Zach's most important relationships, and I'm not sure how I feel about that, to be honest. This is the 12-issue second series, which concludes Tech Jacket's solo adventures for now. I'm one of my way his appearances in the Invincible comics canonically take place after this story. This comic run is fairly good, which sums up Tech Jacket as a whole. The story writing is solid for the most part, but there's nothing super groundbreaking like some of the stuff in Invincible. I can understand why this didn't take off in the same way, but I feel like it could get there if they ever tried again with this franchise. Now, I wouldn't consider the Tech Jacket series as key reading material if you want to enjoy the Invincible comics, since unlike Eve and Rex, he's an integral part of the story, albeit one specific arc. But it is a good enough short read if you have some downtime. Let's talk about this one. This is Mark Grayson's favourite comic book series, Science Dog, in the show universe. In the comics in real life, this is actually Kirkman's comic series, Science Dog, and he didn't want to give Amazon the copyright for it in case he ever wanted to create new media for it. So these 2 real-life issues give us a taste of what the character's like. Science Dog is, surprise surprise, a dog who gained super intelligence and a humanoid form after a science experiment went wrong, and he's living the kind of superhero life Mark is, with some instances reflecting parts of Mark's story. The story is about as cheesy and fun as the premise dictates, with a few emotional parts here and there. This is a self-contained story. I hope the Science Dog does appear as backstories in some other Kirkman comics, although those stories are a bit all over the place. Like I said, it doesn't have the strongest narrative now, but I do understand why Kirkman likes the idea, and maybe with a fully conceptualized idea we could get more stuff surrounding this character. Okay, so this is a bunch of one-shot comics focusing on the character Brit. Brit's a character who was meant to be introduced during Cecil's backstory in the show, but wasn't for some reason. Oh well, we got him in the Invincible War. He's a veteran soldier with his key ability being invulnerability. This has led to the joke that he should be the one called Invincible. He can die from human conditions, by the way, such as old age and the inability to breathe. This origin story is fine, it's about what you'd expect with this character archetype, but we'll see if the future installments are stronger. So this was about the same quality as the first one, not that there's anything wrong with that. It's a continuation, so obviously I've got some more investment, and even some of the emotional stuff is stronger. Let's keep going. Okay, things definitely took a turn here. I will say these comics balance the lighthearted moments and the gut punches really well. I should also mention that Donald is here throughout these comics as one of the mains. He gets characterization throughout, but this one really gives him a good amount of focus. This is when we get Brit interacting with a bunch of characters in the universe, including Invincible. This is a 12-issue story focusing the aftermath of Red, White, Black, and Blue, as well as Brit's family. I'll say this comic feels the most melancholic, which isn't really a critique, just how it feels. Overall, Brit's a decent character. I'll say I prefer Tech Jacket and Science Dog, just because Tech Jacket has cool ideas hampered down by weaker moments of writing, and Science Dog is cool in concept, but there's just not that much direction at the moment. Whereas Brit's story is fine, it's just I'm not really sure where you take this character. I do appreciate him being in the show as he should be. This is a 3-issue miniseries that was meant to have more to it, but no one picked it up, which is sad since Kirkman's author notes really showcase his passion for this series. This series feels like the wholesome nature of the Powerpuff Girls mixed in with the business aspects of the boys. I know that's a weird analogy and probably not the most accurate, but it's just my feeling. For as short as it is, I really enjoyed the story, so if you want a really quick read, I'd recommend it. There's not a lot to say, these are just stories that are included as backup copies in some of the Invincible issues. Pretty much everything I said for Punching the Clock. I will say it's nice to at least have some of these guys in the show and they have cameos and references in the comics. I really like this one. So Guardian the Globe is about, surprise surprise, the Guardians of the Globe. This run takes place after the events of the Invincible War, which leads to new members being recruited with Brit leading them. Not gonna lie, I think I prefer Brit in this to his own comics. He wasn't a bad character by any means, but it's cool to see his experience pay off for him as a leader. I like seeing these new characters and the interpersonal relationships between them, it's a lot of fun. Their enemies are actually everyone featured in episode 5 of this season, you know, the one that everyone considered filler. I'm glad this comic exists because the Guardians get no respect by the show or the fandom, so it's nice to have a fairly effective team who aren't absolutely power corrupt. This is the second set of issues for this comic run. Again, Brit is given so much more focus and it makes me like him a lot more. Also, shout out to Best Tiger, who really is the best. There were some really good emotional moments in this set, and whilst I prefer the first one more in terms of consistency, this was still really good. Okay, this might be my favourite spin-off after Tech Jacket. I wasn't sure how invested I was going to be in a story where our main guy is a werewolf, but it's really good. Gary Hampton, a guy with a perfect family and life, suddenly gains werewolf powers. This comic feels like a Greek tragedy in the best sense of the term. Cecil also plays a huge part in this series. You know, when episode 2 of the season dropped, I heard plenty of people saying Cecil doesn't care. Ignoring his past and future interactions in the series, this comic run is clear proof he does. Invincible also makes a crossover appearance. Now, Wolfman's crossover part was meant to come earlier in the show. He was fighting an Invincible War in the show instead of being KO'd for it. Maybe we'll get it at some point, or maybe they'll just skip it since he's pretty much a cameo character in the main story. By the way, I love the art in the series, so shout out to artist and co-creator Jason Howard. This is the comic stretch that takes place after a significant event in the Invincible universe. It's essentially a sequel to the Guy in the Globe series, and so there's not really much more to it other than it's the same good stuff you get in those comics. In this part of the Image Comics anthology series, we get the Battle Beast prelude. This is a very short story about how Battle Beast drifts through space on a ship after he defeats Invincible and the Guardians of the Globe. You get his origins, or at least some of them, and yeah, it's a simple short giving context to a beloved character. Well, I figured I should mention this even if it's not out yet. This is a comic series that will be released at the end of the year, focusing on Battle Beast. Battle Beast definitely makes an impression in the show and the comics, especially later on, so I am interested to see where the series goes. Well, that's all the Invincible spin-offs, at least I think that's all of them. There's some crossover stuff with other comics, but maybe that's a different video. In terms of ranking, I'll just give my order in terms of favourites rather than a tier list since these comics are so diverse. I did this video mainly because Season 3 is over and I've already read the comics, so I gotta go to the extra media for stories in the Invincible universe. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video and thanks for watching.